July 1977. Graceland was silent except for the low hiss of an old cassette deck. Priscilla thought she'd heard every note Elvis ever left behind, until she found one tape he never meant her to hear. It wasn't music, it was a confession. And by the time it ended, her tears said everything he never could. The storm rolled over Memphis like a restless drumbeat. Lightning flashed through the lace curtains of Graceland, bleaching the furniture in sudden white. It was July 17th, 1977, just a few weeks before everything would change. Priscilla walked the quiet halls with Jerry Schilling and Marty Lacker, searching for rehearsal notes Elvis had kept for Lisa Marie's scrapbook. The house smelled faintly of cologne and dust, the scent of years gone soft. At the far end of the hall, behind a panelled door, the racquetball building stood dark except for one small lamp. On the table, a teak cassette deck, its reels still, a shoebox beside it filled with tapes labelled in blue marker. Most read Hilton Run, Deck 76, Studio Jam, or Lisa's Song. But one caught her eye, its label almost faded, Racquetball 2 a.m. Jerry squinted. That one wasn't in the catalogue. Priscilla brushed the dust off the edge. Her pulse quickened. A faint hum leaked from the machine as if it wanted to speak first. Outside, thunder echoed. She looked around the room. Elvis's old racket leaned against the wall, a towel draped over the piano bench, an untouched glass of Gatorade beside the console. Everything felt paused mid-breath. Maybe it's just practice audio, Marty said, reaching for the power cord. But something inside her, the same instinct that once told her when he'd walk into a room before she saw him, whispered, no. Have you ever felt a secret calling you, even when you knew it might hurt? Her fingers brushed the play button. The deck clicked. A long hiss filled the room. Then a voice. Elvis? Jerry mouthed. It wasn't singing, it was talking. A low private drawl, weary but warm. If this ever gets back to you, Scylla, I didn't say it right the last time. The three froze. This wasn't a rehearsal. It was something else. Priscilla sank into the chair. She could hear the scrape of a stool on the tape, the sound of someone lighting a cigarette, the soft shuffle of boots. He was alone when he said it. Lightning cracked again. For a moment the whole room flickered. She could see her reflection in the window. Pale, listening, half afraid to breathe. Jerry whispered, You sure you want to keep playing it? Silence stretched long enough to feel holy. She nodded once. The tape rolled on. Then came Elvis's words, quiet but cutting through the static. November 14th, 1976. Hilton dressing room. I said I didn't care, but I did, more than I could say out loud. The storm outside went still, as if the air itself leaned closer. If someone you loved left behind a truth like this, would you keep listening or let it rest? The tape whirred. He exhaled. There's something I should have left unsaid, and something I didn't say enough. A small tremor ran through her hand. The chair creaked as she leaned closer to the speaker. Outside, thunder returned, loud, rolling, alive again. Priscilla whispered, What were you trying to tell me, Elvis? The tape clicked again, and before the next sentence played, the power went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the faint red glow of the tape deck's meter lights remained, pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. Rain pelted the roof of Graceland, echoing against the rafters. Jerry grabbed a flashlight from the wall. Fuse blew, he said, his voice trembling. But Priscilla didn't move. The deck still turned. Even without power, the reel was running, somehow on stored current. It was as if the story refused to stop. The speaker crackled. Elvis's voice came through again, faint but steady. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't get another shot. I never did like leaving things half-finished. Marty reached for the cord. Scylla, this isn't right. She shook her head. He left it here for a reason. Then came the unmistakable sound of a stool scraping and piano keys testing tone. You remember Vegas? November 76, Hilton show, last encore. I told you I was fine. A pause. That wasn't true. Priscilla's breath caught. She could almost see it. The Las Vegas Hilton showroom. Red velvet walls. 2,000 people standing shoulder to shoulder. The spotlight catching the sweat on his face. She remembered the moment, the applause deafening. While behind the curtain, everything was unraveling. What do you do when the crowd sees strength? But the truth is breaking inside. Elvis continued. After the curtain fell, I said I'd call. But I walked away. Pride's a mean thing, Scylla. It can sound like music till it's just noise. A long silence followed. Then the faint scrape of paper. Maybe a note, maybe a letter. Jerry looked at her. He recorded this alone? She nodded slowly. I think so. Maybe in this very room. The air felt heavy, not from grief, but from unfinished words. Outside, the thunder rolled again, and the lights flickered back. The storm painted streaks of light across the racquetball walls. On the tape, Elvis laughed softly. You remember that scarf you left? The blue one from Germany. Still got it. Wrapped around a gospel record. Guess I couldn't let go. Priscilla pressed her hand to her mouth. The tears came fast this time. Not from shock, but from recognition. Tape hiss blending with faint piano note. Elvis whispered, Don't worry, I ain't haunting you. Just making peace. And then, almost imperceptibly, he said a date. November 14th, 1976, Jerry frowned. What's that about? Priscilla's voice cracked. That was the night he promised he'd change everything. The tape hissed, then faded. For a moment, the only sound was rain, then a click. The reel spun again on its own, reversing. A new side began to play, and Elvis's voice, lower, slower, said words that froze her completely. Scylla, this part, you were never supposed to hear. Absolutely. I'll keep this one cinematic, tight, emotionally escalating, with sharp sensory cues and no filler. Every line must pull forward. Let's continue. The sound shifted. Crowd noise, muffled laughter, the rattle of dishes and glasses. Elvis's voice came clearer now, caught between exhaustion and charm. Hilton, November 14th. Late show. Folks thought I was fine. The tape had turned into a time machine. Priscilla could hear the night unfolding, like she was standing behind the curtain again. Las Vegas Hilton showroom, November 14th, 1976. Capacity 2,000, sold out. Red velvet drapes shimmered under spotlights. The orchestra tuned up. Charlie Hodge leaned toward him on stage left, handing a Gibson acoustic. Last one, boss, Charlie said. Joe Esposito stood in the wings, watching the crowd rise. From the tape. I looked out there and saw lights, but not her face. His tone cracked. I thought maybe she was in the crowd, but she wasn't. I sang anyway. Priscilla pressed her palms together. She had been there, just not in sight. She remembered the way the spotlight cut through smoke. The moment he sang hurt and hit the note too hard, eyes glistening. Why do we push hardest when we know someone's already gone? Elvis spoke again. After the show, I threw my scarf into the crowd. Thought maybe it'd reach you somehow. She closed her eyes. The image burned bright. Security guards clearing the aisles. Fans crying. One lucky woman catching that blue scarf. The noise of love and distance colliding in one act. He wasn't singing to the world anymore. He was apologizing in public, disguised as performance. The tape hissed as it changed tone. Fewer people. Clinking glasses now gone. This was Backstage. A door slam echoed. Then came his words, raw and human. I told her I didn't need anybody. What a fool thing to say. Jerry looked toward Priscilla. This sounds like a confession. She nodded, unable to speak. Her eyes glistened in the flicker of lightning outside the Graceland window. On the recording, a lighter flicked, the hiss of an exhale. I kept saying I'd do better, but I kept singing louder instead. Maybe I thought volume could fix distance. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Can love survive fame? Or does it fade in the echo? Marty rubbed his arms. It's like he knew she'd hear it one day. Priscilla whispered. He always did things halfway between public and private, even this. Then Elvis's voice softened. If you're still listening, I hope you're not angry. I didn't know how else to leave a truth without making it a song. Her chest tightened. Jerry glanced at the window. Do you want to stop it here? She shook her head slowly. No, I need to hear what came next. On the tape, a piano bench creaked. Elvis muttered something, hard to catch, then said, "All right, just one more try." The first quiet notes of Love Me Tender began to play, but not like the version anyone knew. The piano sounded bare. No orchestra, no echo chamber, just a lonely upright mic picking up the soft press of each key. Elvis hummed the first line, "Love Me Tender," and then stopped. He sighed, laughed under his breath. Can't even get that right anymore. Priscilla's eyes brimmed with tears before she realized it. The sound was too intimate. The creak of the piano bench, the drag of his ring across ivory, the small exhale between words. This wasn't for performance. It was practice or prayer. Jerry reached over. "Scylla, maybe we should stop. This ain't meant for anyone." She shook her head, whispering, "He left it here." "That's not accident." Elvis spoke again, voice low, weary but tender. "You know, I told the fellas not to mess with these tapes. Guess if you're hearing this, you went looking anyway." He chuckled once, then fell silent. "I don't blame you." That single sentence hit harder than a song ever could. What happens when the apology you waited years for finally arrives, but the person's gone? The rain outside deepened, steady as heartbeat. The air in the room thickened with history. On the tape, he shuffled pages, maybe lyrics, maybe letters, then said, "I kept that picture from Germany. You, Lisa, Christmas," still in the gospel record case. "Couldn't throw that one out," Marty frowned. He remembered that. Priscilla nodded slowly. "He kept everything that mattered, even the hurt," Elvis continued. "People think we quit on each other. Truth is, we just ran out of words." His voice cracked slightly, almost swallowed by static. "If I could say it plain, I'd just say, thank you for not giving up on the good parts." A pause. Then a faint knock on the old recording. Someone else in the background. Maybe a crew member, maybe nobody. The noise of the past never stays buried. It just waits for quiet rooms to be heard again. Jerry moved to hit stop, but Priscilla caught his wrist. "No, let him finish." The tape hissed longer this time. A single chord hung in the air. Then Elvis said softly, "I ain't proud of the ways I broke things, but I hope you remember I did try." The words landed like thunder with no lightning. Can remorse heal if it arrives too late, or does it just echo? Priscilla leaned closer, whispering, "He was trying to leave peace behind." Jerry exhaled. "Then what do we do with it?" On the tape, Elvis coughed, cleared his throat, and said, "There's a song I never sang right for you, but I'll try now, even if it's only for the tape." His fingers pressed the keys again, shaky but honest. The melody trembled. "Can't help falling in love." Not perfect, not polished, but filled with something that sounded like release. Priscilla pressed her hand against her chest. Each word seemed meant for one listener. The air itself was still. Then just before the verse ended, the bench scraped suddenly. A second voice, faint and cautious, entered the background. "EP, you still recording?" Elvis laughed. "Just leaving something where it belongs." The tape clicked, and for a heartbeat, the silence that followed was louder than any song he'd ever sung. The reel clicked once, and then silence. A hum filled the room, like the tape itself was catching its breath before something sacred. Then, softly, the piano returned, this time slower, hesitant. Elvis's voice, fragile, human, stripped of performance, floated through the static. Wise men say he didn't finish the line. He laughed, embarrassed, then tried again. Guess I never was one for wise men. The tremble in his tone wasn't weakness. It was truth. Priscilla closed her eyes. Every syllable sounded like the man she knew before the crowds, before the stage lights swallowed him whole. For 60 seconds there was no legend, just Elvis, the boy from Tupelo, talking into the dark. The king of rock and roll was whispering an apology only one woman would ever hear. He spoke softly now. If I made you carry the weight, I'm sorry I let the world in. I never figured how to close the door once it opened. A deep inhale. Then, you were right about Graceland being too big for peace. Priscilla's hand trembled over the console. She didn't cry at first. She listened with the reverence of someone hearing a ghost make peace with itself. How do you forgive someone who's already gone, but still seems to be talking to you? The tape ticked, a quiet metronome of regret. Elvis kept talking, more to himself than to her. If this gets found, don't make a fuss. Just know I meant to tell you this in person. The piano wavered. A wrong note struck. He laughed, muttered, "Still can't get that right." Then, his last full line, recorded through the static. "I'll see you in a quiet Memphis afternoon. No cameras, no entourage. Just us." The words landed like sunlight through the rain. Priscilla pressed her palm against her mouth. Jerry stepped back, stunned, silent. The storm outside shifted. Rain now falling softer, steady, like the sky exhaling. She whispered, "He was planning to come back." Marty shook his head slowly. "You think he knew?" She didn't answer. Maybe he did. Maybe the tape was his way back. Then, faintly, a sound neither of them expected. Another person entering the racquetball room on the tape. A low male voice, Red West maybe, or Billy Smith, asked, "You still at it, EP?" Elvis chuckled lightly. "Just leaving something where it belongs." The chair squeaked. The piano lid closed. Then, nothing but silence. But before the reel ended, one more faint sound slipped through. The soft click of a cassette being labelled, and in his voice, barely audible, "Racquetball." 2 a.m., Priscilla froze. The same words on the tape in her hands. She whispered, "He knew I'd find it." The tape wound down with a soft flutter, the reel slowing like a heartbeat finding rest. The rain outside had eased into a whisper against the glass. Inside the racquetball room, everything felt weightless, like time itself had stopped to listen. Jerry leaned against the wall, silent. Marty looked at the tape deck, then at Priscilla. "You think he meant for you to hear that?" She didn't answer immediately. Her voice came quiet, certain. "He left it here, in his favorite room, labeled the only way I'd understand it. He knew." On the recording, faint laughter returned, the sound of men in the background, a piano lid thudding shut. Red West's voice came through, teasing, "Still up, boss?" Elvis chuckled, "Just leaving something where it belongs." The tape clicked once more, and then flipped. Side B, starting with gospel chords. A familiar hum of "How Great Thou Art" filled the air, his voice steady, reverent. Priscilla's tears came again, but softer this time. Not from pain, but from grace. The same man who'd battled so many demons still found a way to sing a prayer into a cheap cassette. What if redemption doesn't come in grand gestures, but in quiet rooms where no one's watching? She reached forward and rewound the first minute, the apology, the hesitation, the tremble. It wasn't to suffer it again, but to understand it. Listening now, she heard something she'd missed before, a long exhale before he spoke, like a man trying to summon courage. "Maybe he just wanted peace," Jerry murmured. Priscilla nodded. "And maybe he wanted me to hear that he found it." For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt holy. They sat there together, no crowd, no cameras, just the low hum of rain and the ghost of a man who still had something left to give. Priscilla looked around the room. The racket leaned in the corner where he'd left it. His towel still hung from the piano bench, perfectly folded. She gathered them carefully, almost ritualistically, setting them beside the cassette case. "Lisa should know," she said finally. Jerry hesitated. "All of it?" Priscilla shook her head. "Not yet. Some parts are just for the people who lived them. How do you protect a truth without burying it?" She sealed the cassette in a new sleeve, labeling it exactly as he had. Racquetball, 2 a.m. Then she slipped it into a manila envelope, along with the blue scarf and a single Hilton ticket stub. As she stood to leave, thunder rumbled once more, distant this time, like a bow before silence. Outside, the porch light flickered, and for just a second, she thought she heard his voice again. Thank you, darling. August 16th, 1977. The gates of Graceland, filled with flowers, candles and silence heavy enough to tremble the air. Crowds stretched down Elvis Presley Boulevard. Thousands of fans shoulder to shoulder, faces wet from both rain and tears. Television crews whispered updates over the hum of grief. Inside, Priscilla sat by the same cassette deck that had changed everything. The envelope lay sealed beside her, the blue scarf folded on top, its colour deepened by the lamplight. Jerry and Marty stood behind her, motionless. He never wanted the world to hear that tape, Jerry said quietly. No, she answered, but he wanted someone to remember it right. What does it mean to remember it right when millions remember their own version of the same man? Later that year, she delivered a small donation to a Memphis Youth Music Foundation. No press, no statement, just a handwritten note attached to the check. For those still learning to find their song when the world gets too loud. It was signed simply, EP. Sometimes legacies whisper louder than headlines. In 1981, a plaque appeared quietly on the outer wall of the racquetball building. Dedicated to the music left unfinished. Graceland, 1977. No press release, no ceremony, just a small crowd of locals and staff. Priscilla stood a few steps back, wearing dark glasses. The wind caught her hair, and for a second, she swore she heard that tape hiss again. Faint, steady, eternal. Over the years, fans left bootleg cassettes and notes by the gate. Thank you for the songs, forgiving myself tonight. Still listening. It became a quiet ritual. Can a single minute of honesty outlive a lifetime of noise? In 1992, Lisa Marie opened the Graceland archives to the public for the first time. Among the catalogued items, archivists noted private audio tape, labelled Racquetball, 2 a.m., retained by family. It was never released. It didn't need to be, because the point was never the song. It was the apology hidden inside it. Years later, when asked about the recording, Priscilla only smiled and said, "Some things are best kept between the living and the loved." Years later, the racquetball room was quiet again. The same wooden floors, the same faint scent of varnish and time. Light slanted through the blinds, dust floating in gold ribbons. The cassette player still sat there, a relic that had once held the softest truth Elvis ever spoke. Priscilla returned alone one afternoon. The years had softened the ache, but sharpened the meaning. She placed the tape on the console, not to play it, but simply to acknowledge it existed. Proof that forgiveness can live in unfinished sentences. She whispered to the still air, "You did tell me, in your own way. Some apologies don't need to be heard twice to last forever." Outside, a light rain began again. The same Memphis rain that had fallen the night she first pressed play, but this time it didn't sound like mourning. It sounded like rhythm. What if closure isn't about answers, but the courage to keep listening even when the song ends? In that quiet moment she understood. The tape wasn't a secret, it was a mirror. What mattered wasn't what he said, but what she chose to do with it. To hold it, protect it, and pass forward the grace it carried. Before leaving, she placed the envelope, the tape, the blue scarf, the Hilton ticket stub, in a locked drawer beneath the family archives. A single note lay on top. To be remembered, not replayed. As she closed the drawer, her reflection flickered in the glass, and for the first time, she smiled through the silence. Love doesn't end. It just changes form, sometimes into music, sometimes into mercy. She turned off the light, the room fading into stillness. The last sound before darkness was the click of the cassette deck. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Not every recording is meant for the world. Some are meant for the heart. Keep listening for the quiet truths. They're the ones that never fade.